and welcome to the 1%ers Performance Podcast, coming to you from Combermary and Gadigal country in Australia. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge the First Nations people of these lands. This is the podcast exploring how small changes make a big impact. I'm Mario Buchs, and together with my co-host Tim Buxton, we'll discover the unseen edges of peak performance to help athletes, teams and leaders unlock their exponential growth. And now, it's time to dive in and find the 1% that changes everything.
Welcome back to another episode of the 1%ers Performance Podcast. In the studio with Mario today, we're going to have a quick fire session for you. And it's something that's been rolling around my mind, Mario, and I want to get your thoughts on this whole, obsession right now with AI, productivity, what that's doing to us. And are there any thoughts and reflections that we can take away, some small changes that can really help us navigate, this moment of time? I want to begin by asking you a question, Mario. And it's, if you found out that tomorrow that everything you got done this week could have been done by AI in just 4 minutes, would you feel relieved? Would you maybe feel something in you is being erased? Like what would you feel if you found that out just this morning?
I definitely wouldn't be happy because this is actually a good question for a good week, because this week I did a lot of online training as well as last week. So a lot of online meetings and a lot of online training, which is definitely completely different than it is in person, of course, but it would be completely different if this would have been done by a Mario robot. I don't know how funny you can make the Mario bot. I wouldn't want to find out, but no, I think no, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be content. We discussed this off air as well a little bit, It's important that all the motions, and you mentioned that, the motion of doing something and then getting a little bit of help is definitely great, but we still need to do the work, I think.
It's interesting, your response there. I read something this morning from a really well-known Australian artist, Nick Cave, and he was asked if he ever uses AI in recording, as in his music. The summation of his response was, I hope we never get to that point which he knows inevitably it can do a far better job at writing the perfect melody or whatever that case might be. However, there is something intrinsically lost in that. Music reminds us of what it means to be human, what it means to feel, to struggle, to not be perfect, I guess. And it's a celebration of the messy. And I think, we would essentially saying we lose our humanity. One of the core reminders of why we do love art and why we do love music. And so I think it almost reveals right now this struggle with that we have an obsession with being productive as opposed to being human. And how can we be both? Because we kind of live in a hustle kind of culture, right? Like we worship the hustle, the hard work, the being productive. And then if we can find a hack to be productive that doesn't require the struggle, then where's that line, mate? Like, because you said something interesting before about, AI isn't new. It's the idea of we all have to learn and be part of the process of learning. And so, it needs, can you kind of lean into a bit more of that reflection there to kind of, I guess, ease some of the angst around AI, but also kind of lead us into how do we then navigate through that?
So I hope that people don't think I'm the absolute guru on AI, because I'm not. I do have a version that helps me. It's got a reason why I do what I do. There's a lot going on in my little world. And from an engineering perspective, and I have to go back to when I was building machines, you have a certain amount of time to finish a line before the customer needs it for production. End of story. That time frame, that date does not change. It's not movable. That goes for everybody involved in that process. I just, for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, I need to take an example of a new newspaper printing plant gets up and running in a brownfield or a greenfield site. There's a date of when the first newspaper has to be printed from that new machine, where the old machine, somewhere in the city probably, gets decommissioned. So you have that timeline. So you need to use all the tools you have in your toolkit and in your network to get this done, right? And we're talking about places I've visited where it's not so easy to get power and obviously power, gas, water, running water, pneumatic systems up and running, hydraulic systems up and running. So, and that's just me in the 90s and the noughties. We're going back to the 50s and 60s where people already started looking at computers helping us. So this is nothing else, right? This is nothing new. So AI, artificial intelligence, has been there all the time. So we've always needed to lean towards a better and more productive world. So that goes much deeper. Anything that's printed is in the AI world. It's the files getting transferred. I mean, this stuff, and people in the audience will know this much better than me. I have to just fast forward. You talk about productivity. The problem is, who is out there telling me how productive I have to be and what tools I can use? This is the question. I would approach the leadership of every company or every business, and this will probably, I'll put my foot into it now. That's not a problem, because I know a lot of leaders out there who've now suddenly become leaders and managers just for the sheer fact that they were good at their job. But that's a technical decision. Now suddenly they're leading people, and now it's a numbers game. Say, okay, how much can Mario produce in 7.5 or 8 paid hours? But nobody can tell me when and how to use AI, because strangely enough, you're actually working for a business, you're an employee, you're not even allowed to use all the AI tools available. Because as soon as you put something out there from your business, it's out there and people know. So you can't just suddenly create a brand new contract through AI using your name and your company's details and stuff. So people have to be very, very mindful. 90%, and using our analogy, 99% of the work still has to be done by us. We can then go out there and get the 1% just using, our avenue of thought. I hope this makes sense. It's there, it's a tool. It's like I've got a hammer and a nail. Why should I use my bare hands? I've got the hammer. Right, done. And then for the next job, I don't need the hammer anymore. Right? To then close that door once the hinges are on and everything else is done, I don't need AI to close that door. I can then close that door myself.
I guess my question, and coming back to the first, how does it make us feel though? Like in the sense at a human level, because yes, in the realm of business, productivity, profits, there's a case for, you know, implementation of more AI and eliminating work that's mundane. But what about the work that requires struggle? I mean, we talk about going for runs and, you go for an hour-long run, 2-hour, 3-hour run. That involves as much as it can be something pleasurable, that involves struggle and involves perspiration, involves hard work. And the reward comes through doing that, through the slow time of being out there for 4 hours. You can't do a 4-hour run in 1 hour. You can do a 4-hour run in 4 hours, and it just takes that time. No matter, there's no shortcuts to it. And I think we've had Currens on and talked about how they can aid in recovery, and there's all these other elements that we can add. And I think AI fits into that. It can be a tool that can be an complementary tool, just like the shoes to a runner or the hammer and the nail to the craftsman. But I feel like we're entering a moment where AI is replacing the human struggle and creativity and ingenuity and the purpose and meaning of, like, bring myself, what comes out of my mind that isn't already in AI to the table. And I have to bring something good and meaningful. It takes struggle. And that's the part where I feel like I don't know if it's just me, Mario, that is feeling this.
No, you're
and
right.
it's something you can speak to.
Why is running and ultra running in a boom? People want to get uncomfortable. They want to get out of that uncomfortable situation on their own. Yes, with a team behind them and family and whatever. But they want to go out for that run. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
visceral. It engages every
Absolutely.
part of you that's human. Like an AI is this thinking model at the moment. I mean, yeah, there's robots out there, but it doesn't have flesh and blood and hormones and, you know,
You
pulsating
mentioned
energy.
musicians and artists earlier on, you know. They often talk about the soul of their painting and the
Mm.
soul of their music. That's what they're after. They can see and feel something that maybe not everybody can feel. That's why not every painting wants to be bought by many people. There's 3 or
It's
4
why
people that
my
see a painting, they see that soul that's in there by
yes,
the artist, and you will never get that from maybe, an artificial intelligence aid, you know? So, I'm
and
just
it's
thinking, I'm
why
not an artist.
no, it's perfect. It's why my son refuses, is fighting with his sister saying, don't help me, I'm doing this." Because that, as he's painting, as he's doing his art, which he loves, he's an artist. He's the artist in
Mhm.
the family, and he's the youngest, and so it can be a bit sloppy, but he's just determined to be like, "You know what? I don't want you to help me. This is something it needs to be just me to doing this." And I think there's something earned over time by you just coming to the table and bringing and doing. And I think there's a confidence that AI, we can give it, it can rob us of our self worth if we give it too much to it to do, because it's robbing us of the confidence. And an artist generally over time that, you don't buy a 6-year old's art worth 10 millions of dollars. You generally find an artist that's got a reputation over time, and they might produce the exact same piece, but it's worth more. It's worth because it came from somebody who did the work, who over time has proven an authenticity
Yeah,
to that
chopped his
piece.
ear off. I couldn't resist, you know?
Chopped his ear off. And there's something that AI
They don't
can't
chop your
do.
ear off. Nah, that's it.
So
Everybody
that I
knows.
guess that's my I guess question, my thought. What advice then, Mario, all wise one, Gandalf? What advice would you give to somebody out there? And just
Let's hope Matt Willingham is not listening into this one here. He'll have to sit down. Yeah. Advice. Look, as mentioned, I'm not the guru. I'm not qualified. I'm just an old head with a lot of kind of knowledge, hopefully behind me, that I have struggled over time. I've gone through the ringer many, many times in my life, being on my own, trying to figure something out. That gives you a certain pride and a bloody stubbornness.
mm,
I did intervals this morning, quick running analogy. Hated every minute of it. But my old stubbornness would never ever say, mate, let's just can it, And the intervals were too short for my liking. I had to run too fast for my liking. And funnily enough, I still got it done. And this is the thing, I always go back to being stubborn and getting it done. Like your son, Augie, it's his painting. This is my workout. This is my thing. And I think this would be the only advice I'm half qualified to give is say, people, own it. If you need a
mm,
little bit of help, absolutely. I mean, I clean a lot up with AI every single day. Can be an email. Sometimes I don't want to
yeah,
upset anybody because I don't think it's the right thing to do. Sometimes I want to make sure people get it on the chin and say, hey, mate, yeah. And if you want to design something quickly and you want to get a podcast out and whatever it is, I mean, how good is our podcast studio, right? Where you can just say, please clean everything up a little bit so it's a bit,
yeah.
that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, someone still does that job, right? But we can't pay someone $10,000 a month to do that. We've got a studio that helps us with that. So that's fine because we're a small business. We're trying to make ends
When you
meet.
say studio, it's just a software program called
Yeah,
Riverside.
correct. Yeah,
It's
that's
not it's
right.
not a studio of people.
No, 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 of course. Yes, correct. The
Yeah,
software studio. Sorry. It calls itself a
yeah,
studio. Yes. Thanks
yeah.
for clarifying, Tim.
No,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Own it. At the end of the day, own it. Own it. If you get help, own it. I got help. Own it. I couldn't do this alone. Own it. And I think that's the secret to the healthy struggle, the healthy hustle, I would call it. It's the ability to say, "Oh, I'm gonna own this. I'm not gonna let anyone else." And I think for me, I'm reminded when you say that is when you own it, you can value your own worth, and it's not about how productive you were. It becomes how authentic it was, and are you willing to put your name on it? And man, I love that, man. Thank you for helping me with that beautiful one percenter in this struggle that I'm going through, this wrestle. There's a lot more I'm sure we can talk about in further diving into this. But we only had a short period of time, so I'm glad we got to nut that out. Mario, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. As always a great pleasure, Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to the One Percenters podcast. That's a wrap for another episode. And we're proud to be recording from Australia on Kombumerri and Gadigal country. And we honour the traditions and knowledge of the First Nations people and pay our respects to elders, past and present. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We want to hear from you, the questions or topics you would like us to cover, and you can easily do that in the Spotify app. And for those of you that are ready to discover your peak performance edge today, just head on over to our website. That is top.coach. That's TOPP.coach. And start unlocking your unlimited potential with us today. We would love to work with you. And that's it for now. Until next time, what are you waiting for?